is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, a podcast where we talk about comic books, movies, TV shows, and more importantly, we drink a delicious craft beverage. I am Matt. With me is Lauren. Today we are going to be talking about things that happened in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, aka Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, and maybe we'll talk about some villains in between. And we're going to get ready to wrap up our Star Wars month here. It would have ended today. However, we have a wicked good episode for you coming next week where the creators of Wikipedia will be joining us, and that will wrap up in a nice little bow our Star Wars month. So with that said, please, by all means, go to hopsnews.beer. Find our episodes there, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can find our merch there. You can find the links to our podcast there, or you can search Hops News if you just stumbled upon this. But more importantly, go ahead and go Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Hops Geek News. Support the show any way you can, even if it's just by telling a friend. That will help us grow, and maybe eventually we can make it to the big times, right? That's the goal. With that said, I am drinking on this episode Lamplighter Brewing Company Space Monster, an IPA coming in at 6.9%. And Space Monster is a West Coast style IPA hopped with Michigan grown Chinook. This beer balances caramel malts with prominent bitterness and hop forward aromas of sweet cedar, citrus rind, and ripe pineapple. Keep cold, enjoy fresh. It's out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, which, if you know anything about me, because I won't let you go 2 seconds without remembering, I am from 20 minutes away from this brewery. Massachusetts is my home. It is my life. It is my identity. You might have heard that once or twice on here. And so this is a great beer for a great podcast.
I heard Lauren, they invented America.
They did. Massachusetts did indeed invent America. Look it up. It's true, kids.
So I'm going to make you come back to me in 5 minutes, but I will tell you real quick what I am drinking. I'm still finishing up what I had on Hops News, my Swift Runner Double New England IPA. That's double dry hop with Talus, Amarillo, Cryo, and Idaho 7. And it's from my favorite brewery, Tactical Brewing. I've had it on here before when we did our Supernatural episode. And when we talked to Megan Huang, I actually drank it as well because she has a Swift Runner Wendigo in her comic, Rangers of the Divide. And she actually just dropped some news are we going to mention that news?
Yes, we are. So the cat is out of the bag. Megan, who has been on our show before, she's done Rangers of the Divide, which is a fantastic comic book. If you haven't picked it up yet, go get the first 4 issues now. You can get them in a trade back. That said, she's going to be working on Star Wars hyperspace stories for Dark Horse Comics, which was just announced today at Star Wars Celebration. And she's an artist, amazing artist, but she also writes. And so she shared the cover for her issue number 2. It looks beautiful. There's some TIE fighters. The artwork is beautiful. Megan seriously does such impressive artwork. So please check her work out. Yeah. Like, it's so vibrant and beautiful. And it's so warming, you know, it's just so warming. You just want to hug it. Just want to hug the artwork.
By the time we get to our main topic, though, I'll have a new beer to discuss.
All right. Well, we have been absent of news and things that we have read or watched lately because we've had a lot going on. If you've seen our recent episodes, we talked a lot about the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. If you haven't, go check that out. You can see me rant a little bit. But we also recently had Hyatt, the assistant director for Marvel's Moon Knight. She was on our bonus episode this past week. Such a wonderful human being that we can't wait to bring back because she's actually doing a lot in the filmmaking world, in the Arab culture. So expect more coming from her. But as far as what I have read or watched this week, I have been playing Horizon Forbidden West, which I have some news coming from that end here in a little bit. I have watched X, actually, which is an A24 film. And if you don't know what that is, it's got Brittany Snow in it, Kid Cudi's in it, and it's a pretty decent film. It's a horror film, A24. You know, they do a lot of artsy, weird things. And it's about a group of people. They're filming a porn movie. So they go to this abandoned ranch thing. I believe it's in Texas because all horror movies take place in Texas. And so it kind of goes Florida. From there, or Florida. Yeah. But this one's definitely in Texas. And so they are filming this movie. They stumble upon this old couple's property who they've reached out to about staying in their extra house, and it kind of goes from there. So I highly recommend that film. Very good. It's only about an hour and a half, so it's not very long, but it was such a cool original idea for a horror movie that I really think you all should watch it. I watched Senior Year starring Rebel Wilson, which...
How was that? I'm curious.
So I'll put it to you this way. I don't like her as an actress particularly. Something about, I feel like she just plays the same person in every single movie. And
right,
so
but
to
she's
me,
usually funny and raunchy, so it's like...
She wasn't very funny.
All right.
It's Rebel Wilson. It's very much a Rebel Wilson movie. That said, it was an interesting take. So she's in high school in 2002, which for all my other people that were in high school at that point in time, like this really kind of hits because
I
guess
graduated 01.
Yeah. So I went into high school in 04. So like all of this era that it starts out in and all the fashion, the music, it's what I grew up on. And for whatever reason, maybe it's because we're all filmmakers from that time now. Everybody just wants to attack us in like late 90s, early 2000s methods and nostalgia. And it really causes me to go into midlife crisis.
Oh my God. My husband and I said something the other day and my daughter goes, millennials, and rolls her eyes. I'm like, what the hell?
How are the youth blaming the millennials too? Like you got the old people blaming millennials. Now you got the youth blaming millennials. What the hell is going on here? I didn't even know I was a millennial
until like a year ago. I still doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
I'm an elder millennial.
Until like 97.
Right.
And I'm an elder emo. So
an elder emo.
they're playing things like Skater Boy and all this other stuff. And like her bedroom in this movie has posters of, Britney Spears. Oops, I did it again. Version Britney Spears.
I had a poster of Britney Spears in my dorm room.
Like it's like walking into it's you're walking into like a time capsule, right?
God, I love
and
that
so
poster.
The movie is basically, it starts off with her in high school. She gets purposely dropped and during a cheerleading pep rally for the school because prom's coming up. There's a month. Yes. Like spoiler alert. Yes, it's on purpose.
Damn.
Anyways, I won't give anything else too much away, but she goes into a coma for 20 years. So she wakes up and she's 37 years old. And so it's her basically figuring out her life. She goes back to high school for that last month. And it was a fresh take on a story. Again, her plays the same character, but there's a lot of people you recognize. Yes, it is a fresh take on a movie, and it wasn't so bad. I mean, it could have been worse, but it was decent for what it was. It's a Netflix film. You can go watch it now. Like I said, I've been playing Horizon, and then I've been watching The Circle on Netflix, season 4 of The Circle, which if you don't know what that is. I keep hearing
people talk about that.
All right, so they fool you into thinking it takes place in like Chicago or whatever, but I looked it up. They actually film in England. And so is this reality? It's like a reality show. There's like 4 to 7, or there's like 7, 8 people that go into these apartments. Nobody else can hear or see them. They can either choose to set up their profile as themselves or somebody else, basically be a catfish. The goal is to win $150,000 by playing this game, and you only play the game through basically talk to text. It's all the TV set up to the apartment. It's called The Circle. You're like, hey, Circle. And then you talk out the messages. So it's super annoying in a way that it's like, hey, Circle, send message to Lauren. Hey, girl, had such a great time. Smiley face emoji, hashtag, blah, 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 blah. And that's how they communicate the whole entire time. So it's kind of annoying, but it's interesting to see people like some girl who won catfished as her husband before. And so the husband is now on this season and he's catfishing as her. And so like this other dude is catfishing as somebody else. One dude catfished as his mom. And then there's people like legitimately playing themselves. And the goal is to fool everybody into thinking you're a real human being and winning $150,000. And it's mindless television. It's not amazing television. However, if Netflix wants to hit me up for being on season 5 of The Circle, I'll gladly catfish as like somebody. And
it sounds award winning.
Yeah. So it's nothing crazy. And then my last bit, because I'm kind of rambling at this point, is I just finished Star Wars Brotherhood, which was written by Mike Chen. And I highly recommend this book for fans of Star Wars. The Star Wars novels do a lot to add to the canon. And I know a lot of people may be talking about Legends, how it added to canon. That all got wiped away. So we've had new books, right? But what this book does, it's basically focused on right after Geonosis. And it's got Obi-Wan. He has to go to Cato Nemoidia, I believe is how it's pronounced. Basically, the homeworld of Newt Gunray to prove that the Republic didn't blow up their city there. And it details actually goes about Anakin and Obi-Wan's bond. I don't want to give too much away, but my non-spoiler review is that it's a very, very good book. You kind of dive into the mind of Obi-Wan Kenobi. You dive into the mind of Anakin Skywalker. You kind of see Anakin become a Jedi Knight, and how they learn how to go from master Padawan to brothers. And this is also kind of where you see Obi-Wan figure out that Anakin and Padme have something going on too. But it's the very beginning of the war, which we haven't really seen. We kind of jump into the Star Wars Clone Wars saga in the middle of the war. And so this details the very beginning of the war, how they hope to a swift early end to this war. They introduce you actually to Asajj Ventress, which is pretty cool. She's they don't know her at all yet. She's introduced for the very first time in this book. And Mike, what he does with these characters is he does a great job kind of getting into their minds and showing their bond and their relationship and kind of like the way that each one thinks and how they have to deal with this situation. So I can't recommend that book enough. Cannot. It is super good, worth the read. It's only about 320, maybe 330 pages. So not a super long read, but absolutely worth picking up if you're a fan of reading the Star Wars lore and expanding on the canon. So that's all I've kind of been reading, watching. And what about you? I'm sorry I went long-winded.
No, you're good. It worked out well because there's a lot of commotion in my house at the moment. That's why I was raising my hand.
You're just raising your hand, and I'm just like, what is happening? Do I go with it? I don't know.
That was really funny, though. I mean, that makes complete sense. I probably should have picked a different signal to let her know I was muted. So I haven't had too much time to watch much, but I have restarted The Boys, and my gosh, I forgot how good it is. And I also forgot a lot. So, at the very end of this, if you have seen The Boys and you want a refresher, we're going to do a spoiler-filled recap of season 1 and 2 because season 3 does start next week. But there was a couple things I noticed in my rewatch that are Supernatural related that I'm just going to let you know because the creator of Supernatural is also the showrunner for The Boys, Eric Kripke. So there's surveillance footage of Butcher's wife, and it actually says January 24th. That's Dean Winchester's birthday, but I believe it's also Eric Kripke's mother's birthday, so I think he uses that date all the time. And another funny thing I came across, Jim Beaver, who plays Bobby Singer, who is Robert Singer in the show Supernatural, and Robert Singer is somebody who works on the show, so they named him after it. Well, he is also in The Boys, and his name in The Boys is Robert Singer. So they didn't even change his name.
So much for originality.
I just thought it was funny. He's like, come over and do this show. Whoa, what's my name going to be? The exact same name you had in Supernatural.
Listen, I just want you. That's happened to so many. It's funny because, I mean, how many movies have we seen of people that are literally just playing their actual name too? It's kind of funny.
Well, I mean, some like in The Office, like half of them have their actual names.
But yeah, exactly. So it's kind of funny.
But his name's Jim Beaver in real life. But it's just funny that he's played 2 Robert Singers now in 2 totally different shows. But seeing Stormfront again, and she mentions Pippi Longstocking, and knowing what I know now, I feel like that scene hit different because I remember watching it the first time and being like, do you know what Pippi Longstocking is?
Yeah, she's got the 2 braids. She's the redhead.
Yeah,
I've read the books when I was a kid. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I watched it.
She's magical and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was she was the original The Floor is Lava. If you get on the floor, the alligators rip your legs off and stick them in your ears.
Yeah.
But I very much so enjoyed rewatching it. If you do have time, I recommend rewatching it just because, oh my God, I forgot so much. And that's really all I've watched. I just started season 2 last night.
Ooh, and that comes out this coming Friday for those of you at home.
Yes, I'm so excited.
And so I guess I'll just interject that starting with Kenobi, you can catch me on Metalcore Nerds for basically the entire summer because we're going to be doing an after show on Kenobi, Miss Marvel, and The Boys. And you can find that on, Metalcore Nerds by searching them or listening on Adobe Howl, which is a really cool radio station that plays, has metalcore music, pop punk, all that kind of stuff. So very, very much thank you to Sean for having me on. But yeah, wow, that starts this week. We're eating. We got Stranger Things is out, Kenobi is out, which we're going to kind of talk about next episode for our perspectives. But then we have The Boys is out.
I'm the most excited about The Boys, and then Kenobi.
Right. Yeah. And right after all this wraps up, we jump into She-Hulk and then Andor. And so it's like, we are feasting right now. It is so crazy.
We put in our time on in 2020. We had no content in 2020. It still blows my mind that year had no MCU content at all. That is crazy to think.
We somehow started a podcast in 2020 with no MCU content. Can you even imagine?
We're grasping for straws. No, there's still, even if nothing new ever came out again, we'd still have
back in 1993, we had
at Jurassic Park. We did an episode on that.
Yeah, we did.
No, we are definitely getting spoiled right now. And it's such amazing content too. But I had a friend that sent me a meme the other day. It might have been Ian. And it said, kids in 2053, I have to watch 35 movies and 35 TV shows to understand this one movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I'm like, we're already at like 14 shows in the MCU. If you count Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Runaways and Cloak and Dagger, I'm like, that's definitely going to be more TV shows by then.
Somebody was like, we're already at the halfway point from Infinity War in the MCU. Like,
because you're counting TV shows.
Yeah. And so it's like, wow, we really are, because we were getting maybe 1 to 2 movies for a bit there. Now it's like, here's a movie, here's 2 TV shows. Here's 2 movies, 3 TV shows. And we're speed running.
Here's the difference though between now and the first decade is the TV shows in the first decade were connected, but they were like subtle about it. It was like we got, Nick Fury showed up for 5 seconds at the end of one episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But other than that, they were never definitively clear that these shows were connected. Now they're like, yes, these are connected.
Blatantly. And not even that, but like, I feel like as nerds, a lot of us put our time in. So we went through the 80s, 90s of pop culture nerds you were kind of made fun of for liking comic books and things like that. And now it's like, man, our kids are growing up as fans of the Avengers. It's cool to like Marvel films. It is cool to like these things. I say Marvel because DC's just figuring its shit out still. So,
I wasn't into this stuff in high school, so my friends make fun of me now.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like, it's not like the cool thing, but you have people who never would have been into this that are into this. And so I don't feel bad that they have to watch all these movies to catch up on, because how many movies have we watched from the 70s and 80s that we love?
My response was, how lucky of them.
Exactly. They get to see it all for the first time, and they don't have to wait.
I wish I could watch Endgame for the first time again.
Watch it in succession. Exactly. So let's roll into some news. Speaking of all of these shows that we're feasting on, so we got a She-Hulk trailer, and Disney just re-uploaded this trailer with the CGI was fixed. So if you caught the trailer, yeah, the CGI wasn't the best. It wasn't great. But there's a large contingent of people out there that are simping for, She-Hulk, myself included. So it's just, they fixed the CGI. It looks better, a little more cleaned up, I guess, with YouTube and all that stuff. So in addition to that, Andor, Star Wars Celebration is going on right now. So we have Andor, which has been confirmed to release in August 31st of this year, which is crazy because the trailer looks so cool. If you watch the trailer, you see Clone Wars armor, but it's all white like stormtroopers, and we're getting these crafts. And so you're actually getting to see these people. It's the transition from the Republic to the Empire. And so it's so freaking rad, man. Oh my God, it's so cool. And it's confirmed to be 2 seasons, 12 episodes each.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to go straight into Rogue One. So Season 2 is going to leave off where Rogue One picks up, which is pretty rad. So, man, the trailer for this, if you haven't watched it yet, my God, please go watch the trailer right now because it is worth the wait. We also have Jude Law is going to be starring in a Star Wars, I think it was a TV show. And basically it's about like 10-year-old kids that kind of get lost in the galaxy during the in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, and they're trying to find their way back. It's actually going to be called, if I can find it, I thought I sent it
Was
to
it
you.
Skeleton
Sorry.
Gang or Skeleton something?
It's called Skeleton Crew. And so it's an original series starring Jude Law from executive producers John Watts, Christopher Ford, Jon Favreau, and Dave Filoni. It's going to be streaming in 2023 on Disney Plus. And so it will be a movie, or a TV show rather. And yeah, like I said, it's about people that are finding their way back home in the galaxy, which is pretty cool because we're getting fresh stories from people that aren't the Skywalkers. And in addition to that, The Mandalorian season 3 has confirmed to be releasing in February of 2023 as well.
Woohoo.
And so he says they're going back to Mandalore to right some wrongs, basically. So we're going to see Mando going to Mandalore to fix some things that he's done. And so it says he's going to Mandalore so that I can be forgiven for my transgressions. Hell yeah. Absolutely.
Very excited.
If there's one thing that I need, it's press viewings of that. So from there, we kind of go on into some other news and things like that. Like they released a picture of the next Indiana Jones. We kind of got a Willow trailer as well. So that was kind of cool. Hayden Christensen and crew are basically saying like, hey, we get to do all this because of you guys who love these stories, who love these things in regards to like Obi-Wan dropping tomorrow for us, but it's already out for you guys. And Ewan McGregor kind of already hinted towards his season 2 of Kenobi. So I'm kind of hoping I
want to see the relationship with him and Satine. And then I want to see Satine give birth to their love child.
So Satine is actually mentioned in Brotherhood, funny enough. But
and then Hayden, I want to see what happened to their love child.
Yeah. Ray. And then Hayden today at the Star Wars Celebration actually said that in regards to his character, that's what makes his character so compelling, the duality that's present, the inner conflict of self-identity. It's been such a thrill to come back and explore the character of Darth Vader. I still need a solo Darth Vader show where it's the comic books where he's searching to figure out what happened with Padme, where he's hunting down Jedi, where he's this omnipresent badass villain that we've all come to fear. Like I still want that because I am greedy, because I'm just greedy from there. So from there, we got a trailer for The Gray Man featuring Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans. It's going to be on Netflix. It feels like it really ought to be a theater release, but whatever. The Wonder Twins were canceled due to a $75 million budget, which was deemed too high.
Was that the one on HBO Max? No.
Yeah. No, it would have been, from DC. So that's getting canceled. Riverdale is going to be ending with season 7 on the CW. Thank God himself.
Show's still on.
My thoughts exactly. Like
I've never seen a single thing, but I heard it was pretty bad.
Well, when it first came out, we're like, cool, an Archie show. And it wasn't at all. So
that's a shame because if they had done that right, that could have been really good.
Exactly. Speaking of Ryan Gosling, who's going to be in The Gray Man, him, Simu Liu, and Nikuti Gatwa will star as different versions of Ken in the Barbie movie with Margot Robbie. That's apparently
the new Doctor.
Yes, he is the new Doctor, and apparently this is one giant blackmail film. Mark Bernardin, who you might know doing Fat Man Beyond with Kevin Smith, but he's also a comic book writer / TV movie writer. He's been nominated for an Eisner Award for his work for Adora in the Distance. So that's pretty exciting for Mark. I've been a fan of his for a long, long time. So I'm really excited to see him making big things happen. Tom Cruise
seems like a nice dude.
Dresses up in disguise to go watch movies. Apparently he's a big movie guy and he likes to go in disguise. So you could have been sitting next to Tom Cruise and never would have known.
Probably shouldn't have told people that.
But he's in disguise. You can't know anyways.
I hope his disguise is really good.
I mean, if you've watched Tropic Thunder, you can tell his disguises can be pretty good.
That's the best movie he's ever been in.
What? Oh my God. A little movie called Top Gun has just come out. Oh God. I can't wait to talk about that movie because I'm such a sucker for that film. Anyways,
I saw somebody
on.
wearing a shirt the other day at Disney that said if what did it say? It was like if I was in Top Gun, Goose would still be alive. It was something like that.
Oh no.
It was way harsh.
All right. Why you gotta harsh the mellow, man? So speaking of harshing the mellow, Marvel has signed a deal with Stan Lee Universe to license Stan Lee's name and likeness for use in future films, TV, theme parks, and merchandising through digital technology.
Said they weren't going to do that.
Oh, I believe they did. But
so was that because they didn't have the rights to do that, and they were just
but
trying
they've
to
got
be
the
like,
rights now. They're trying to do right by Stan Lee, and now that they've got the rights, all bets are off. So it kind of sucks that that's what they're going to use him basically.
I mean, I thought that it would be nice to have like subtle cameos, like a picture of him, like employee of the month, something like kind of like what they did in Deadpool. But they came out and were like, he's passed, and we're going to respect that, and we're not going to put him in, anything. And now they're like,
the mouse respects we didn't have the rights. Nobody. If we're talking dollar bills, the mouse respects nobody.
Dollar bills, y'all. Ugh,
yeah, so it kind of sucks.
The mouse, fucking Winnie the Pooh. Did you mention that one yet?
Oh, I was getting to that one. So there is going to be, because Winnie the Pooh is a public domain, there is going to be Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, which follows Pooh and Pig.
Express to you how much I hate this.
I love this. I am so in the bag. It follows Pooh and Piglet going on a rampage after being abandoned by a college-bound Christopher Robin. It's made Pooh and Piglet's life difficult.
So it's like Toy Story, but they get all evil.
I love this so much. I can't tell you how much I love. I just want to see I don't even know what I want. I don't even know what to expect from this movie. It's going to be insane.
Here's the thing. Part of what makes Pooh such an amazing character is he's wise and doesn't realize it, and he's pure innocence.
Christopher Robin abandoned him. It does things to you.
He says are so profound at times, but he's such a silly old bear. I don't think I've ever expressed my love for Winnie the Pooh on this show. This is not cool. You have.
That was your first episode. Our first ever episode. You talked about how Winnie the Pooh got you into this world. And so I'm just here for Winnie the Pooh.
And E.H. Shepherd are rolling over in their graves.
In the shadows, and he's going to play Pin the Tail on the Eeyore, or Eeyore's sick of Tigger's shit. Eeyore. Actually, Tigger won't be in it because he's not public domain yet. But
oh, really? So he's younger.
So Tigger's not public domain, but Winnie the Pooh and Piglet sure are, and they're going to kill everybody.
Tigger's not going to be far behind, though.
No, he sure won't. Ugh. Speaking of animated films, Samuel Jackson has been cast alongside Chris Pratt in Garfield, where Jackson will play Garfield's father, Vic. Ugh, I don't like Garfield, so moving on. Tim Burton's Wednesday.
Garfield doesn't like Mondays.
That's true. So good thing we have a Wednesday, which is Tim Burton's newest film. Is going to be dropping in fall of 2022 on Netflix, where Jenny Ortega is going to be Wednesday Addams. Sony plans to be done with the PlayStation 4 games by 2025. That's fine. I got a PlayStation 5 already. And then Scarlet Witch is apparently working on a solo film starring Elizabeth Olsen with Marvel Studios, where the movie will be released summer of 2024. We'll see if that actually happens. And then a couple last tidbit things. The new CEO of Warner Brothers wants to produce more Harry Potter content. Barry has been renewed for season 4, and then Ocean's 11 has a prequel starring Margot Robbie. A lot of news on my end. What do you got?
I don't have too much. My first piece of news, I don't know if we've mentioned this before, Doom Patrol season 4 is filming, and you know how I know this? Because Mark Shepard told me personally.
Oh, he said we're filming.
So I did see him at MegaCon. I went up to his booth. My mom's like, "Oh, who is that?" I'm like, Doom Patrol, Doctor Who, obviously. Firefly, Supernatural, like kind of a big deal. But he is the king of hell, and that's what I love him for. And I told him, I'm like, I love you. And because it was very obvious we were Supernatural fans, because it was Ian, Tabby, and I, and we're all big Supernatural fans and had Supernatural stuff on. And I'm like, I love you in Doom Patrol as well. And he goes, oh, we're filming season 4 right now. That's why I'm so tired. So that was exciting. Jensen Ackles is joining Big Sky on ABC as a series regular. Never even heard of the show, but he's going to be on it. Tyler Hoechlin, I don't know how you say his name, the Superman and Lois. He is returning for a Teen Wolf movie. Jackass is getting a revival series, and it's in the works with Paramount Plus, which I thought was very interesting that it wasn't MTV. Hunger Games prequel has started casting.
Oh, God. Make it stop.
Oh, I don't like those movies either.
The movies were I read the books. The books were decent, but like Katniss Everdeen is such a waste of space as a hero. Like, she's not entertaining at all. She sucks. She lets everybody else do the work. And so I don't care about Snow because you know how it's going to end for him. I don't care about none of that shit. So, ugh.
I just didn't like the kids killing kids part.
Well, I mean, that's pretty badass. It's based off a Korean film actually called Battle Royale. So
I never read them, and I have friends who did who were very excited when it came out. And I've seen, 3 of them, right? I've seen all 3 on DVD,
yep.
But I don't know. I mean, they're not bad movies. I just don't love them. Oh, they give me a creep factor. Anyways, Black Mirror is currently working on a season 6, which I do like that.
Yeah, I do too. It's so trippy.
Creepy, and they make you think and they terrify you at the same time. And you never know who you're going to get in those. You get all sorts of, because every episode is basically standalone. You get so many awesome actors on that. Big Hero 6 series is coming to Disney Plus on June 29th. The Amazing Spider-Man is coming to Netflix. So if you want to catch up on some Andrew Garfield, that'll be on there. And the script for Deadpool 3 has officially begun.
Ooh, nice.
That's what I got.
Well,
ready for
shall we talk about
I want my next
Mando?
They work for the Empire. I did what I had to. I know
That's not Pedro Pascal.
Yes, it is.
I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
That's
there
Pedro
we go.
Pascal.
That's the stuff.
That's the stuff. All right, I'm
That's
done playing with my
so
toy.
let's wait, what? That's inappropriate. First and foremost. Second of all, let's go to Mando in the Book of Boba Fett.
What's up, guys? It's your friendly neighborhood hop heroes. I'm Jordan.
I'm Daddy.
I'm JR.
The second person was Zach. Don't listen to him. We are a podcast about comic book culture and great beverages of the alcoholic sort. We like to talk everything and anything, mostly find ways to talk about Zach's facial hair.
That's true. Years of that.
And Batman.
Batman.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
JR is a comic book artist and fellow patron at Action City Comics in Federal Way, Washington.
Yeah, I work there part-time.
So we got a little bit of knowledge, and then me and Zach don't know what we're talking about, but we like to drink and argue.
We just show up.
Just show up, yeah.
Yeah.
We're here, but we appreciate you guys listening to Hops Geeks News, and if you enjoy that, I think you'll enjoy us. So come on over. We can find us on any platform you can find podcasts.
See you there.
Yep.
Smooches. Love ya.
God damn it.
So we'll start with Mando, which takes place 5 years after the Return of the Jedi. Why don't you hit us with some fun facts before we talk about the show?
So Grogu actually cost about $5 million to make after everything is said and done.
Kids are expensive, folks. Don't have them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Ugh. Okay. This is a very expensive show. About each episode cost $13 million. One cool thing is the show barely uses green screens or massive sets. Instead, they have employed a new technology that they're the first to use called stagecraft, and it's also known as the volume.
Ooh.
And what it is it's giant LED screens that basically make the cast feel like they're inside of it. And like I said before, they're the first to use this. And I'll jump ahead to a fun fact from Boba. One of the guys that created one of these jets, he said when he was in it filming, he felt like he was on a ride and he didn't want to get off because how it's actually moving, and the screens are like the stars flying by you. So you feel like you're actually flying. Jason Sudeikis plays a stormtrooper. He's the one of them that's mean to Grogu. I feel like if you are good at hearing voices, you can hear Jason Sudeikis immediately. We have
Wow. Oh, I forgot a piece of news regarding
go ahead.
him. It'll
Say
be
your
next week. Okay. I totally forgot. His name jarred a memory real quick. So Blue Beetle actually had some set photos released in which the outfit looks freaking sick. But that said, Jason Sudeikis is rumored to be playing Ted Kord in the Blue Beetle show. So if that's
Another
the case,
Ted?
I'm so in the bag. Yes, Ted Kord though. But Blue Beetle looks so insane. Check out those set photos. I completely forgot to mention that in my news portion, so I apologize. Continue.
I saw the pictures. I didn't realize it's the kid from Karate Kid, right?
Yes, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Is it Zolo?
I have no idea. It's
He
the
plays
kid
Miguel.
that breaks his back.
He plays Miguel. Yes. And I'm so bad with pronunciations.
Not Karate Kid.
But he's
Okay.
going to be in it, and I'm super excited. So, yes.
Okay, Werner Herzog. He's a director, and he's the old dude that's in the beginning of The Mandalorian, who he wants to get Grogu, and he talks very slow. So when Deborah Chow was directing the episode, which is called The Client, she actually told The Hollywood Reporter, quote, he was acting against the baby, and he started directing the baby directly. I'm trying to direct Werner, who's now directing the puppet. He would tell us we need to commit to the magic, end quote. And what's funny is had never even seen a Star Wars movie before he filmed these scenes. So it wasn't even like he was like connecting with the Star Wars universe. He was just committing to the role. When Pedro Pascal auditioned, he originally thought he was going to be playing Boba. Filoni makes a cameo as an X-Wing pilot in episode 6, and I'll get more to that in a minute. So I had to look this back up, but I can't believe I didn't realize this. Matt Lanter, who voices Anakin Skywalker in Clone Wars, who I saw at MegaCon do a panel with Ashley Eckstein and the dude who voices Obi-Wan, is in episode 6, and he plays the New Republic officer on the ship. Remember when they are going to rescue the one guy, and there's that one officer that Mando's actually trying to save? So that's Anakin Skywalker in Clone Wars.
What?
Yeah, that is a fun fact. In order to keep Luke Skywalker reveal a secret, the script was hand-delivered to Hamill by Favreau himself. Then once filming began, no one was allowed to use the words Luke or Skywalker on set, and the set and editing rooms were kept on lockdown. Favreau doesn't appear in the series, but he does provide the voice of a character in the very first...
He also has his own Mandalorian action figure now.
Does he really? Oh, how funny.
He does. They've released a Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau action figure of them as the Mandalorian.
Well, he's like the heavy Mando infantry. And again, I feel like this is similar to Jason Sudeikis. I knew it was him immediately. It's like the same when you're watching Solo. You know he's that monkey pilot dude. Like they have distinct voices. And we've seen them in many things. So the 50... wait. Oh, so one of the advantages, so because Mando's always has his helmet on, it was very easy to sub in other people when Pascal had a scheduling conflict. So he is not always the person in the suit, but obviously he is always the voice. So he just would do the voice work later when he couldn't do.
God, I would give my soul to just be the stunt person in the Mando costume.
It's got to be so hard with all that stuff on and the helmet.
I don't care. I don't care. I would just to be in a Star Wars production. I don't care if it's even me as an extra, just to be like, I was in I cannot express to people how much Star Wars means to me. So like if I was ever in a Star Wars thing or got to interview anybody that was in Star Wars, I that would be it. Nothing would cap that moment in life.
No, I understand that. I'm just, those helmets, I don't know how they wear them we have some toy helmets and like, that's hard to keep on. I'm going to pause on the fun facts because I did open my second beer. So I am drinking.
Is that the other half?
No, but the can art does kind of look like other half.
It does. Okay.
This is called Iridescence. It's a double blurry IPA from Woven Water Brewing. And this brewery is in Tampa. And I love this brewery. Their beer is fantastic, and this beer is fantastic. They're the brewery that when we went to the Innings Fest and the Funky Buddha hop guns were 12 ounces and like $14, we took an Uber to the closest brewery, and it was Woven Water because we didn't care about the bands until the ones that were coming on later. And we saved a bunch of money because we had amazing beer for half the freaking price. And they're the ones that had the Michael Myers mask. I actually posted it on our Instagram. And they had some fantastic sours and IPAs. And if you're ever in Tampa, this is like one brewery that's, I don't want to say up and coming because I feel like they've already made a name for themselves in the area. But in general, they're up and coming. So Woven Water Brewing. Next time you're in Tampa, definitely check them out. Their beer is fantastic. And we can usually get their water pretty readily available in Orlando.
Yeah.
Did I say water? Their beer in Orlando.
I was going to say, wait, because it's woven water?
Yeah. Well, I was like staring at the can when I said that. All right. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. So the 501st Legion, who we've mentioned before on this podcast, they're a charity group of cosplayers who make and wear extremely accurate armor for the Star Wars universe. The producers of Mandalorian actually called them up when they needed extra stormtroopers for the show, and they used them.
Damn.
And they were actually at MegaCon raffling off a helmet for Give Kids the World, which is an organization in Orlando. It's basically Make-A-Wish kids can stay there for free, and it's really cool. They have like because they'll do a thing at Christmas where you can go and see all the lights, and you pay money and it goes to it, and like they have all these rides there, and the houses are beautiful, and they decorate them, and so it's a really good, very sad but really good organization. And that's where I saw that Turbo Man stuff that I sent you.
Turbo Man.
So that's kind of awesome. And how cool of them. Like they're doing charity work and then they're like, hell yeah, I'll be an extra on the set of Mandalorian.
I would do everything. Like, oh my gosh.
So Bryce Dallas Howard is one of the Mandalorian directors. And obviously her dad is Ron Howard and he directed Solo. However, one of the things he said was that, I know this is brand new information. She apparently had a lot more freedom on Mandalorian though than he did on Solo.
Interesting.
Blurgs, the beasts owned and trained by Kual, who is the guy who says, I have spoken. They actually first appeared in a 1985 TV movie called Ewoks Battle for Endor, but they have also been seen in Clone Wars and Rebels. Mark Hamill has a voice cameo in Chapter 5, The Gunslinger. He's the droid bartender at Mos Eisley Cantina.
Oh.
Which is kind of funny that it all comes full circle. In the episode The Prisoner, Chapter 6, this is what I said I would say before. I found this out today, and I thought this was so cool. So Dave Filoni, Rick Famuyiwa, and Deborah Chow are all, directors on the show, and they got to pilot an X-Wing in this episode. So if you remember when Mando flies off, and then you see the X-Wings come, like he like sets them up, like they think they're getting Mando, and he sets them up to get them. Well, the X-Wing they're in was actually not made for the show, but it was made for Disney World. So this exact X-Wing that they were in can be seen at Hollywood Studios here in Orlando, and it's right near the Rise of the Resistance ride. So if you're coming into Guardians of the Galaxy,
I've been there. I took a picture, and you haven't. Let it be known.
I have a picture of it somewhere. I just don't currently have it on my phone.
No, you don't.
Fine, I'll go there tomorrow and take another picture. You can't do that.
That's fine. But as of this recording, you don't, and I do. Thank you. Let it be known on the record that I have something at Disney World that Lauren does not have. Thank you, Your Honor. I rest my case.
But I was standing next to you when you took it. Do I get credit for that?
No. I'm saying no.
All right, fair enough.
Because I'm bougie and selfish.
So if you walk into Galaxy's Edge, if you come in from the side where Baseline and Star Tours is, you're going to pass Rise of the Resistance on the left. And shortly after that on the left, you're going to see the Blue X-Wing. And that's the one that was in the show. What's funny, though, is they decided to use it before it was getting sent to Orlando. So they had to film it a little bit differently because they didn't just build it around them sitting in it. They actually had to get on a ladder and like climb into it. So it was a little bit tricky. And that's all I have for Mando.
Man. Well, those are some good fun facts. It's a shame because I really want to do an episode from Galaxy's Edge someday. Like I think that's my ultimate goal for the podcast real quick is to do a podcast because I have like the mobile microphones. So I don't know. I just think it'd be the dopest thing ever.
You can only have 45 minutes in the cantina.
Exactly. So one day. But so Mandalorian, I love this show immensely. It's great seeing something that's not part of the Skywalker saga, but yet it moves the story along, right? Like this show has done a lot. It's cool seeing Mandalorian culture because it's something that's always been in lore, legends, things like that. We've heard bits and pieces, the War of Mandalore, things like that. We haven't fully gotten a Mandalorian focused episode before. Or series. So seeing this dude who just kind of goes around, in each episode is kind of like on its own, but at the same time it's part of a bigger story. It's so cool. I love it. And it feels like the universe is bigger, because what happens in a lot of these Star Wars films or TV shows is more often than not, we go to Tatooine, we go to the same 4 planets. But what they do here is he bounces around, he goes places. The fight choreography, is really great. And you can just tell there's so much love put into these. And I say that they go to different planets and other than Tatooine and stuff. I get it. They go to Tatooine in this show.
Well, they keep you familiar, but you also explore new things.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's so great getting to see like Grogu. Of course, everybody fell in love with the child right away, and having this dude who seeped into the Mandalorian culture, and you're getting to explore more of that aspect of things, where it's Star Wars. When you think Star Wars, you think the Force, you think lightsabers. And so what they do with this show is, yeah, maybe they have a little bit of that. Sure. But they don't focus on the Force. They don't focus on that stuff.
Because the average person isn't dealing with it.
Exactly. They focus on the everyday person, the person who's struggling to survive and things like that. And that, again, I can't say enough, take a drink every time I say it, but Mandalorian culture. And so it's just so great. And everybody who does something in this show, whether it's Giancarlo Esposito, Carl Weathers, Bill Burr, you can just tell that they're
Star Wars.
Exactly. Bill Burr hates Star Wars. And so anybody, they love what they're doing. Pedro Pascal too. Like, yeah, I get it. You see his face. Oh, you shouldn't see a Mandalorian's face, but like, come on.
He's the only Mandalorian whose face we don't see, other than like the other two.
For the most part, like, you have such a prolific actor and you really don't see his face all that much, which is pretty freaking rad. And then at the end of season 2, where Luke Skywalker of all people appears in the deep fake, that was like what this show does to me is it captures something that the sequel trilogy was lacking. And that was that take my breath away moment. Take that, like, wow, this universe feels so big. Oh, it feels so big. Anyways, it's just like, that's what she said, but
I was thinking
it does such a great job of that's what it captures, the essence of Star Wars. And there were bits and pieces of the sequel trilogy that did that, but what Mandalorian does is captures those. You get Grogu. There's moments where this little cute ass baby comes up and saves the day, and they're fighting with blasters. You're going to different planets. You see ships. You see just characters having this journey, and you don't have to use the Force. And so I love it for that reason.
And there's TPS reports. I know I posted this on on Twitter, but if anybody who didn't pick that up when I was doing my rewatch, the episode with Bill Burr, when he does take his helmet off, he's like, oh, we're going to go work on those TPS reports. I'm like, oh my God, they just made an Office Space joke in The Mandalorian, and I didn't pick it up before.
But I'm curious to see. So for you, what are your thoughts on the show? Because obviously I have been so involved in the Star Wars cult. Like, I don't want to brag, but I've been around forever. Anyways.
Right. Whereas I'm a bandwagon.
I grew up with this. Like, I get it. I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s. That's when I really became a human. But I grew up on this. You just recently started getting into Star Wars. So for you, what was it like watching as a newer fan?
So I did watch Mandalorian as soon as it came out, but it wasn't like, oh, that morning, it's like now it's like I wake up and it's, I'm texting my daughter before I'm out of bed, like 20 minutes on the couch with coffee. I'll see you there. The first episode, I was like, this is kind of slow. And I had a little bit of a hard time following it because it's like, I didn't even understand when it was taking place. And somebody's like, oh, it's taking place here because they're using these credits and this and that. And now I get that. Like when I did my rewatch when I watched Mando again after watching Return of the Jedi, I had a very much so newfound like appreciation for it, especially when they were talking about the Battle of Endor and, you know, that some of them were there. And I was like, okay, that's really cool. But after the first episode, by the end of the first episode, I was like, this show's really good, whether you're into Star Wars or not. And I think it's kind of like when somebody says, well, I don't want to watch all these TV shows for Marvel. I just want to watch the movies, or I just want to watch these movies. It's like, okay, great. You can enjoy that, but it's so much better if you watch all of this. You know, if you watched everything you needed to before Spider-Man No Way Home, if you watched Daredevil and all of the Spideys and all of the old movies, like Spider-Man No Way Home was an amazing experience. But if you didn't, it was still good.
Yeah, you hit it on the head. A lot of people think you have to watch episodes, blah, 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 blah. Like my friend, or we both know him, Tim from the Unexpected podcast. He's out there in Australia, and Caitlin, and she's never seen Star Wars. And so he texted me, he was like, you know, I watched Kenobi. She's here visiting for X amount of time. And do I show her the episodes or should I just jump in? And I was like,
that's
you know, the beauty of these shows is just jump right in. Show her the Mandalorian or Kenobi. Sure, it does connect on the grand scheme of things. It does connect. But these are good jumping off points.
Yeah.
Because I think what the Mandalorian does is does a good job of paying off for the fans who have been around for a while, who are loving this stuff, while also hooking in newer fans, like the casual people, as you say. I hate saying that word casual because it sounds so uppity and gatekeeping.
No, I think it's fine.
But the people who are kind of like, yeah, I like this, I'll watch it. Because I had talked to people at work who they don't care about Star Wars, but they're like, I like the Mandalorian. And so what this stuff does is a really good job of hooking you into that. And it's just like an old Western style show taking place in a Star Wars universe. And so they give you just enough.
It's like giving someone a craft Pilsner and getting them weaned into craft beer.
Well, it pleases both sides. And that's what it does so well. And the cinematography for being shot on a soundstage most of the time is absolutely insane.
Oh,
like the things that they're 100%. Able to do are insane. And then they even have people like Timothy Oliphant show up in these small roles. But it just shows you Star Wars, though. It's funny looking at all of these people, these big name actors that show up in these small roles.
Because they're just excited to be a part of it.
Exactly. That's the essence of Star Wars. It's like these big name. Daniel Craig, of all people, played a stormtrooper. You couldn't tell it was him.
Right. He had his helmet on. He's like, just put me in, coach.
But that's what Star Wars does to people. And
I think
they do such a great job of capturing that heart.
I think you nailed it with the Timothy Oliphant, who I think we're going to see a lot more of in the future. I'm very excited about that. Is we're seeing these cameos of these familiar people, even Pedro Pascal. Anybody who's watched Game of Thrones or God forbid that terrible Wonder Woman movie, or he's in other stuff too. So you do have this great cinematic masterpiece of television, and I didn't. I guess that is a good part to get into it, and it might encourage some of these people to be like, okay, I like this. Where do I start now? As if I want to know more. Whereas somebody who is introduced to A New Hope in the year 2022 may be like, I'm sorry, what? So yeah. I didn't think about it like that, but it's hard because if one of my friends doesn't like Marvel, I'm like, you're crazy. You need to watch this. You need to watch that. You need to do that. And I'm fine pushing it on them. But if one of my friends, which most of my friends are not into Star Wars, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to try to push this on you because it's a lot to push on you for you to get to the point to where you appreciate it at the level that I do.
Yeah, it's just got something for everyone. So I love that The Mandalorian does that. I can't wait. Season 3 is going to premiere in February of 2023. And then it does a great job of folding in characters like Ahsoka as well. And that was even a surprise. So that said, you want to move into the Book of Boba Fett?
Yeah. And they're doing a great job too, tying in, which obviously is intentional because it's Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni tying in Clone Wars and Rebels and everything. So Boba, obviously his timeline is up and down and it's intertwined with Mando. So if you've seen Mando, you kind of know where he is at different points. One of the directors said when he first saw the Hammerhead Mayor, it felt like that they were in a spacesuit because he looked so real. And they didn't want to have subtitles for this guy, so they had to create the voice box, which we originally actually saw in Clone Wars. And this is on the Boba Fett special on Disney Plus. There's like a behind the scenes thing for the show, which if you want more Mandalorian fun facts, they actually did a behind the scenes episode for every single episode in season 1, but they're like an hour long and they're entertaining, but there's a lot. So if you're really into it and you want more, check that out. I only watched the first few because it's just very long, but they were fun. So they only did one episode for Boba, which is probably better. But what was funny though, is Filoni was explaining that they did the voice box and it's from Clone Wars, and he is just grinning like a giddy child in this documentary telling us about it. The gaffy stick that the Tusken Raiders use is based on a Fijian warrior weapon known as a tokia, and it's actually a bird beak. And I believe Tamir Morrison's actually from Fiji, so it's got a little bit of his own heritage in there. In the first episode, Boba Fett and Fennec Shan pay a visit to Mos Espa, and several 4-legged droids can be seen walking in the streets. And my first thought was Black Mirror, and they look like robot dogs. So these were actually not created for the series, but exist in real life, which is super creepy. They're called Spot robots, and they're created by Boston Dynamics. And they did a little bit of customization to them because, you know, Star Wars has a bit of a tradition of taking things and making them Star Wars. Haha, ice cream bucket. And which I saw one of those at MegaCon. And even like Luke Skywalker's lightsaber hilt was originally the handle of a vintage flashbulb camera attachment. So, you know, they kept in theme with that. But man, those things are creepy. Both Fennec and Boba, despite the fact that they're both like late 50s, early 60s, they perform a majority of their own stunts when they're doing hand-to-hand combat. And honestly,
that's awesome.
That doesn't really surprise me because, I mean, Melinda May, she clearly has a ton of training in hand-to-hand combat as far as performing. But yeah, they both do a fantastic job. In an interview with Tamir Morrison, he compared his time on the prequels to the Disney Plus original by saying, quote, "Back then, I didn't know what I was doing. I was having too much fun in the armor," end quote. Now he's more disciplined and he's taking the role of Boba more seriously, and he has people that he consults on the crew that keep up with all the comic books and novels and any other form of media that features Boba Fett so that he can be as into the character as he should be. So this one I thought was funny. I think that's my favorite fun fact. So having the Rancor seem like a dog, like a pet, was inspired from Jon Favreau feeling bad for the Rancor keeper in Return of the Jedi when Luke kills it. And you really do see that guy is like so sad when he gets killed. And so Jon Favreau, like as a kid, or I don't know how old exactly he was when Return of the Jedi came out, like he felt like that guy, he was so sad. Like he lost his pet dog.
He does. He's like this dude in his underwear that just goes up and he's so sad. It's just like, oh, you feel bad too. Right.
And so that's where they got like the dog owner kind of relationship. The Rancor in this has a real head. He's only partially CGI'd. And I think I mentioned this on the last, when we did the original trilogy, because the original one was a tiny puppet. They tried to do like some sort of whatever CGI was called then, and it wasn't working. So they made the tiny puppet. Whereas in this, they could have CGI'd the whole thing, and they said, no, we want to have an actual head. And then the rest of it was like green screen. So this goes to the thing I was saying before. Doug Chiang designed the N1 Starfighter for Phantom Menace. And then 23 years later, he got to sit in the model on the set of Boba. And he's the one that described it as like a ride because they have the giant screens that you're surrounded by. And if you can Google that, and it might even be in the Boba special, it's really cool to look at. It's honestly like you're on Star Tours or something. R5-D4, the droid Owen Lars almost buys before purchasing R2-D2 instead, is still at Mos Eisley Cantina, and it looks like his motivator never did get replaced. What? Okay. For the young Luke scenes, this is another reason why you should watch this special. The young Luke scenes where he's with Ahsoka, everything had to be recorded with Mark Hamill and recorded by a stunt double that had the same body type he had in the early 80s. And they had to like combine it all. It's crazy how many takes they had to do and how similar they had to be. But seeing
some of those behind the scenes photos are crazy. Like it's cool seeing Mark
Yes.
Hamill as Luke Skywalker filming these at the same time. It's man, it hits the again.
That's where
it
the
hits
pictures
feels.
come from, though, is this special.
Yeah,
But it's Mark Hamill, and he's like, he was a skinnier kid, so he's bigger now.
Yeah.
He's obviously older now. He's early 60s, and then he was 20s, but they had to make his hair in the like not a comb over, but it's like brushed to the side with his bangs. So he's in his 60s with his hair brushed over to the side with his bangs, and it's not the best hairstyle for him. And he's with Rosario Dawson filming these scenes, and the R2D2's there. So that's really cool to see.
yes.
And that's what I got.
It's man. So overall, I thought this series was just okay. It was just it didn't do
loved
much. Okay, so then that's good. I by no means it wasn't awful, but it really felt like they didn't give it as much love as the Mandalorian was getting. Obviously, they were like, oh, we just got to make a Boba Fett show, and so they shot it on like a small, tiny sound stage, basically, and it really shows at times, like especially in the finale, like it's very secluded and it's Boba, and they're just kind of walking around, and it's
the finale. There's so much action.
Yeah, but at the same time, like it felt so small world, and then also you can just clearly tell that the amount of love wasn't put into this, like the Mandalorian. Because look at the Mandalorian episodes in the Book of Boba Fett compared to the Boba Fett episodes. Like most of the time he's in a Bacta tank, and I thought the most exciting things about this series was the fact that he was Boba Fett was. I really loved the fact that he was with the Tusken Raiders. Like I thought there was a lot to explore there. That would have been cool. And then they just move on to him being like this crime boss, but at the same time, he's like, no, we're doing this the right way. We're not doing crime. I'm taking over Jabba's palace, excuse me. And he's just walking around. I'm the Daimo. I don't know. The whole thing just felt like, man, like we're just filling space here. Like they had to do the Book of Boba Fett in order to get more Mandalorian, I guess.
I mean, I think they were filling in holes. We wanted to see him get out of the Sarlacc pit, how he got out of the Sarlacc pit. I think that Boba and Mando are very similar but different at the same time. Whereas, like, I think one of the reasons we love Mando so much is that he's like the, what do you call it? The anti-villain, what's Deadpool called? Anti-hero. He doesn't want to be a hero, but he also feels like he has to do the right thing, kind of thing. Like he has a conscience, he has, morality. Well, and I think Boba's journey has led him to where, and you even see it in Clone Wars, where the other kid clones are like, if he's anything like us, he's going to know this was wrong. And so he always had that in him. And now we're seeing him as like a grown man with wisdom having come from this. And I don't think the Tusken Raider story is over. I think somebody in there survived, whether it's the kid, whether it's whatever, the badass guy that was like running the place. Like, I don't think that's over, but I think they did a great job of like, this wasn't the Boba show. This was introducing Boba, giving us more of what everybody was like so excited when Boba first came out, yet he had such limited screen time. So now we're finally getting it, but they really interweaved it with Mando. And I mean, we all fucking loved when Grogu did that force jump. That was adorable.
Yes.
But my only thing is, I don't love the crazy lady with the curly hair. I don't love her. She annoys me. I feel like she's trying too hard.
Oh, yeah. I know you're talking about.
So like Grogu's nanny or whatever. I gotta
say,
me.
like the ship she builds, the old Naboo starfighter, seems so counterproductive to a bounty hunter's lifestyle. Like, how
especially
are you
when he has a kid.
Well, not even that.
Nobody's
but like,
getting brought in cold or warm.
Exactly. There's nowhere to put any prisoner that you're bringing back in for a bounty. So it seems so counterproductive.
You do see Filoni in those. Did we talk about that? Like Filoni is one of the, I actually noticed that when I did the rewatch. I was like, hey, he looks familiar. He does. He's one of the things when they pull Mando over. Filoni is one of them.
Oh, yeah. There's a couple of them in there. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. The Rangers, basically.
Yeah. But no, I mean,
and so,
I really enjoyed every week. I thought they did fantastic. And I love the Timothy Oliphant story. And all the people
thought that
now
was
in
good
this
too.
show are people who are genuinely trying to do good in a world where you can't.
Well, it's funny you say that because Timura Morrison was basically like Boba Fett has lived this life. He was a villain, but now he's just trying to do good at this point.
Trying to redeem himself because he
And
always had that morality in him.
Yeah.
He was
He's
trained
trying
to be bad.
Yeah, he's trying to do that good now. And so that it makes sense. I have no hate against that. I also don't really see why Boba Fett is such a popular character because he had like 30 seconds of
Because
screen
of that Christmas
time.
special.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never cared for Boba Fett too much, but I love that he is playing Boba Fett. I love that he's the voice. If you go back and watch the other Star Wars now, he's the voice there, and he's getting to do this role because he was all the clones. He was Jango Fett. So it's super rad that he's getting to do this.
Now he needs to come back and play Rex.
I fully agree. And I thought some scenes seem out of place. There's a lot of complaints about like the Mandalorian sequences were just Dave Filoni getting to play with his characters again and all that stuff. Like I get it. The Ahsoka Luke stuff didn't really play into the bigger picture of Boba Fett.
This is part of it.
Yes and no. Yes and no. So I feel like the Mandalorian stuff was just shoved in there. Like we didn't need it. We could have done more with the Boba Fett stuff. Of course I did because I love Mando. I don't care about
and
Boba
Filoni
Fett.
knew
So
we were going to
love
love it. And he probably knew people were going to complain too. He's like, oh, y'all are going to fucking complain, but you're going to fucking love this.
Well, it's Star Wars. We're always going to complain. So
but
of course.
You knew full well though that they weren't going to go into season 3. Like, is Grogu going to be in there? So I'm sure that was part of it too. Like,
I also feel like Grogu shouldn't have come back so soon. They shouldn't have given us that in the Boba Fett. But I know the whole Star Wars fans complain.
That was a little quick.
Blah blah blah. I just feel like they could have given us that in season 3. But whatever.
Like left them on the cliffhanger where like, here's your Beskar steel armor, here's your lightsaber.
Fett. Right.
I think you should get both.
We should have gotten a whole entire arc of Boba Fett, not an entire episode dedicated to Mando. Like, give us more of Boba building up his community, building up his empire that he's trying to build.
I bet we're going to get more Boba in Mando.
I'm sure. I'm sure we're going to see more Boba Fett. That's not the last time we're going to see Boba Fett.
Next time
so
it's going to be like WandaVision. It's going to be like Boba Mando, Boba Mando.
Or it's going to be like White Vision in that he just disappears. You don't see him again.
Then we'll know where the hell he is since he wasn't in multiverse.
He's on Tatooine somewhere. You're right, though. I don't know. So I liked the show. I thought it was okay, but I didn't love it like I did Mandalorian. It didn't give me that Star Wars feels. I was just like, okay, cool. And we had that dude in the awful spin trick. Like the biker gang didn't really seem to fit. I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of spare parts put together.
Nice choice of words, spare parts with the biker gang. But, it was funny because like I was watching the biker gang and it's like, they're trying to replace, I still say Melinda May. Fennec Shand is like, what have you done to me? Because she was replaced with parts. Meanwhile, these kids are doing it like it's tattoos. So I think it's like the evolution of generation to generation because in Star Wars, one of the things we don't see is like, the technology is not improving. It's consistent. We see no new technology. So how do you know from the prequels to the sequels, it looks exactly the same. It's not like you're going from, the 40s to the 70s to the 2000s. Like you're not seeing that. But with these kids, they're literally the only thing that you're showing a progression of. It's like kids these days are doing this. It's like no droids allowed. Like Mando hates droids. You can't have droids in the cantina, yet these kids are making themselves part droid.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know. So
it was a little silly, but I get it.
It was. I get it and I don't. So it was all right. Let us know your thoughts. Before we wrap up, though, we're going to take a quick little detour because The Boys does release this week.
So excited.
Lauren has a season 1 recap, season 2 recap for you just in time for season 3 to air. So Lauren, take us on this journey.
It's going to be diabolical. Okay. So The Boys, season 1, Huey's girlfriend Robin gets run through by, just heads up, shit ton of spoilers. Huey's girlfriend Robin gets run through by A-Train and bursts into a bajillion different pieces, except her hands, which Huey is still holding. Huey's offered a settlement by Vout, and he declines, and Butcher finds Huey, claiming to be the FBI agent, and he gets bad soups. We learn quick that Vout is just a business. They don't really give a shit about managing superheroes. Lamplighter just retired, so Starlight is brought into the Seven to replace him. She meets the Deep, and he demands a blowjob. Homelander laser eyes a plane with a guy that was threatening Madeline Stillwell. Huey plants a bug in the Seven building, which Butcher asked him to do. Then Huey goes back to work, and Translucent shows up threatening Huey because he saw Huey plant the bug. Butcher comes in and helps save Huey and confesses he's not the FBI. They capture Translucent, and then they shove a bomb up his ass. This was Frenchie's idea. He finally starts talking and tells them about A-Train and Popclaw. Then Huey explodes Translucent. Butcher gets MM, also known as Mother's Milk. Then we find out that A-Train juices Compound V, and he's basically a junkie. Huey meets Annie, aka Starlight, on a park bench, and they bond. Popclaw kills her landlord via asphyxiation, because she was all hopped up on Compound V. After A-Train said on live TV he was single, because really they were together, but he had to pretend he was single and she wasn't happy. The boys caught her killing her landlord via asphyxiation on tape because they had been spying on her, and now they have something over her. This leads to them finding where the Compound V is coming from, and that's when they find and release the female, who brutally murders everyone and runs off. Frenchie is intrigued by her. A-Train then goes and kills Popclaw, making it look like an overdose. Frenchie was caught on the security camera at Popclaw's, and the Seven then goes after them. Black Noir then attacks, and it looks like the female saves Frenchie and then gets killed by Black Noir, but she regenerates, so Frenchie's happy because she is alive. But Black Noir thinks she's dead. Vogt is working on getting into the military, but politicians are against Soups being in the military, so Homelander and Maeve go to save an international plane from terrorists, hoping that will help, but it doesn't go well, and they watch everyone fly away and die. Maeve's upset. Homelander doesn't give a fuck. Huey and Annie go bowling at Butcher's request. Then she gets him into a religious soup event, which is called the Believe Expo. While there, Huey blackmails Ezekiel with a gay video because Ezekiel's one of those pray the gay away people, but he's also gay. And he tells him to stop preaching the gay, pray the gay away. This leads to them finding out what they're doing with the Compound V and finding out that they're dosing babies. And that's when we get to see the laser eye baby. Starlight then realizes how bad this crap is, and they're all homophobic at the Believe Expo. And so she goes on stage and calls all of them out, and she calls out the Deep and tells everybody that she made her give him a blowjob. Deep tries to rescue a dolphin, but the dolphin was into him, and the dolphin then dies because Deep slams on the brakes and the dolphin goes flying through the thing, and then he gets run over. So Deep gets sent to Ohio because he is definitely Me Too'd. And that is when we see him with his gills, and he gets real sad, and you almost feel bad for him even though he was a douche. Fun fact, in real life, he worked at Abercrombie. That gives you just a knife. I recently watched the Abercrombie documentary. It's not good. Okay, so we find out Homelander was raised in a lab, and we see Madeline treating Homelander like a baby, and he's getting off on it. He definitely has mommy issues. Mesner. We get Haley Joel Osment, who is a has-been that can read people's minds when he touches them. Frenchie wants to know what is up with the female because she is mute, so they go to Mesner. Mesner's holding her hand, and then she breaks his hand. She's been juiced up on Compound V, even though she didn't want to be. And then she lets him read her, and they discover her name is Kamiko, and she was recruited by a terrorist organization. When I say recruited, she was forced to join the terrorist organization. So they learn Vought's plan to make super terrorists, which is really only Homelander's plan. So the military needs soup heroes to fight soup terrorists. This works, and Homelander is sent on a mission. There was also some blackmailing done with Doppelganger, which helped them get the soups into the military. Then Butcher goes to his CIA connection, Susan Rayner, who wants a sample of Compound B. Mesner rats them out to Homelander. Then Homelander tells Starlight her boyfriend killed Translucent, and he threatens her. Maeve steps in and tells him she's just stupid and she had no idea, which is true. She had no idea. She's not stupid, but she had no idea. Starlight goes and yells at Huey, who confesses and tells her she was dosed as a baby and she was not born with these powers, which she thinks she was. Frenchie, MM, and the female get captured. Huey then intentionally gets captured, but smuggles in his retainer to escape. And as they are escaping gunfire, Starlight shows up and saves them. But A-Train also shows up and tries to attack, but he has a heart attack. And Huey and Starlight save his life, but he is left in a coma at the end of the season. Homelander has questions about Butcher having beef with him because he doesn't understand why he hates him so much. And it turns out Homelander raped Butcher's wife and got her pregnant. But Homelander was never told, and Butcher never knew what happened to his wife. Homelander discovers that everyone has been lying to him and that he has a kid who is alive. However, Grace Mallory is the one who tells Butcher to look at the relationship between Stillwell and Homelander, although she wants nothing to do with anything because the last time she worked with Butcher, her kids died via lamplighter. And she is the one that told him his wife was going missing, and she connected her to Homelander. So it ends with Homelander killing Madeline Stillwell himself after Butcher strapped a bunch of explosives to her chest. And Butcher then says, fuck it. He explodes the whole house after Madeline's dead. But Homelander then grabs the baby, drops the baby off a few streets away, and then takes Butcher to Becca's house. And then we meet Homelander's kids with the glowing eyes. And Homelander says, hey, I'm your dad. The end of season 1. It's a lot. Did you remember all that? Because I didn't.
No, I didn't.
In my rewatch, I was like, wow, there was a lot that happened because they're short seasons, but a lot happens. All right. Any opinions before I do the same thing with season 2?
No. Move on along.
Right. So we have a new kid actor, though. I should say that. Season 2. Butcher wakes up far away from Becca alive because Becca told Homelander she would kill herself in front of Ryan if he didn't keep Butcher alive and tell Ryan that it was Homelander's fault. Ryan is Homelander and Becca's kid. Ryan and Becca have been living secluded in a vault compound with lots of security. Becca wants Homelander gone, but he actually wants to be a dad. Aw. Butcher, being blamed for Stillwell's death, is now on the run, and the boys are all wanted. Starlight is now secretly working to expose Vought because she realizes they are terrible people, terrible pieces of shit. A-Train wakes up, and he shows up while Stormfront is replacing Translucent. So they finally said Translucent went on a mission. He died. And now they have a funeral with an empty coffin, but it's, apparently he's in there because he's invisible. And they start the whole Girls Get It Done campaign. The boys go to Raynor hoping to make a deal and clear their name because they discovered a soup terrorist has been smuggled into the country. They bring in the terrorist and they get cleared. Raynor then has a bit of an epiphany. Well, he says if you bring in the terrorist, you'll get cleared. All of a sudden, Raynor has an epiphany and realizes Vought is behind all of this, and suddenly her head explodes. Kimiko finds her brother. He's the soup terrorist. Oh my gosh. She agrees to give him to Langley because he's still going full on terrorist. This leads to a whale being killed by a boat and Stormfront killing a lot of people to then kill Kimiko's brother, who is just trying to escape, and she uses a racial slur while doing so. Homelander does not love that Stormfront is getting positive attention, and Starlight gets the Compound V by blackmailing Gecko, and she leaks it to the press, who reports that superheroes are made. Do you remember Gecko? He would let people cut off his body parts for money.
No, I remember the PJ Masks, though.
PJ Masks.
Gecko!
I can't think of a rhyme. When they get it to the press, a lot of the soups are not happy. You see Deep and Black Noir crying when they find out that they were dosed as babies. Homelander is making Doppelganger pretend to be Stillwell, and then he turns into Homelander himself and offers a BJ to Homelander, which Homelander is definitely intrigued and turned on, but then kills him. Mallory tells Billy where Becca is, and he tries breaking her out, but Becca realizes Billy doesn't really want to take Ryan, so she passes. The Deep continues to work on himself with the Fresca religion cult. Mallory then tells Billy to look into Liberty, a B-list soup from the 70s. So Huey, and Annie go to Raleigh, North Carolina, and they ask someone about Liberty. We learn that Liberty is Stormfront, and she killed this woman's brother for a crime he didn't commit, and she used a racial slur while doing so. Stormfront then helps Homelander, and the two of them start getting it on, and he lasers her chest. It's like a thing, I guess. Turns out Stormfront is a Nazi. Yeah, well, Stormfront is literally a Nazi organization. Homelander outs Queen Maeve on national TV, and now Maeve is worried he's going to kill her ex-girlfriend. Compound V really only works on babies, not as well on grown-ups, but the boys find a hospital/lab where Stormfront is working on grown-ups and, experimenting on them, much like in World War II. And a bunch of unstable soups are there, including Lamplighter, who is actually working as like a nurse there. He was the one on the 7 who killed Mallory's grandkids because the boys and Mallory blackmailed him to be their mole. Turns out Frenchie then gets made by the Lamplighter, and the soups escape and go crazy, so Lamplighter has to team up with the boys to get out of there. However, he then confesses he did not know Mallory's kids were in the house, and he agrees to testify against Vought, so Huey gets to babysit Lamplighter while he watches a lot of soup porn. Starlight is discovered as a traitor and gets arrested, and Lamplighter says he'll help get her out, but really he just kills himself in the process, but he sets off alarms so Starlight can get out via the electricity that goes off. Black Noir attacks Starlight, but Maeve rescues her by shoving an almond joy into his mouth because he's allergic to nuts. Since Lamplighter can't testify, Butcher gets the scientist who experimented on Homelander growing up to testify. That's Vogelbaum. So he goes to Congress to testify, and heads start exploding everywhere. So it's decided they're going to give more adults Compound V, which is what Stormfront wanted, so long as they're white, though, so that they can combat whatever the hell's going on. Stormfront and Homelander get closer, and he takes her to meet Ryan. Then they just take Ryan and fly away because they didn't like Becca. Becca finds Butcher so he can help, although Butcher tells Edgar, a.k.a. Moff Gideon, the guy who kind of runs the Seven in the vault, that he'll get the kid back from Homelander and Edgar can have him. Then Butcher and Becca are good to go. A-Train get kicked off for being too slow, but then he finds out it was really because Stormfront is a racist. The Deep gives A-Train a Fresca, and now he wants to help Starlight and Huey. A-Train then leaks Stormfront's Nazi photos. Butcher gets Ryan back and decides not to give him to Vought. Then when Homelander sees that Vought was going to take his kid from him, he kills all the Vought soldiers. Then the female, Starlight, and Maeve start fighting Stormfront. Stormfront then takes off and grabs Becca. Ryan freaks out and he laser eyes Stormfront, but Mom is collateral damage. As she's dying, she tells Butcher, he's a good kid, raise him good. Homelander is then sad about Stormfront, but then goes to get Ryan, who walks toward Butcher. Before Homelander can kill Butcher, Maeve shows up with blackmail, which is the video of the airplane from season 1 where Homelander basically let everybody die. We then see Homelander, Maeve, and Starlight at a press conference with Edgar, where Homelander looks like he is starting to lose his shit, which we saw in the trailer for season 3. We get a happy ending. Butcher gives Ryan to Mallory. Mallory is reinstated and the boys are cleared. MM goes home to his family. Huey and Annie are all good. Frenchie and Kimiko look happy. A-Train is back on the Seven, but the Deep is not. Then we see a scene with the Congressman Newman, who we've seen throughout the show. And they even give you that in the first episode. Yeah, I'm sure there's a meme out there with that somewhere. But there is, right after Raynor's head explodes, if you rewatch the first episode, it cuts directly to Newman on TV. Yeah, that's one of those things you just don't know until the next time you watch it. So then we see the scene with the Congressman Newman talking to somebody on the phone, and she's talking to the guy who runs the cult church with all the frescas, and he's drinking a fresca, and then his head explodes. Then we see Newman is the soup who's exploding heads, and Huey now works for her. The end.
Well, that was your boys' recap. There's a lot going on. So catch up. Season 3 debuts this Friday. With all of that said, once more, catch myself on Metalcore Nerds as I'm going to be talking about each of these things weekly. We have no letters to the editor this week. Next week, we will have Wikipedia on to talk with us about the finale of Star Wars month. I know it went a little longer than a month, but deal with it because celebration's going on right now and Kenobi's out and I'm going to cry tonight.
No, we're still good. Everything was released in May.
It's going to be May, except for this next episode, which is going to be June.
No, it won't. It'll be May. It'll be like May 30th.
No.
This episode will drop May 30th.
But the Wikipedia episode will be June.
Yeah, that's true.
Knucklehead.
Live every month like Star Wars month.
Listen.
My bad.
It's all the same.
I'm really bad at math.
Surprising. You're a lawyer.
Yeah.
I'm really good with calculation.
I went to law school rather than business school because I didn't want to take any more math classes.
I don't know. I suck at math too. Anyways, Lauren, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I don't. I'm so fucking excited for the boys. So excited. And it's hard. Like I want to reread the comics again too.
I am so excited for Kenobi. I can't wait to talk Kenobi on here next week.
I'm excited for that too, but please God, I hope Soldier Boy shows up in episode 1.
I'm straight up going to cry when Kenobi airs. I can't enough. So if you've stuck with us to this point, thank you guys so much. As always, please share with a friend, help us grow. We're trying to do great things. We're just a small podcast trying to do cool things. So hopsnews.beer is where you can find our articles, our episodes, our merch, our everything. Hops Geek News, just search that. That's where you can find most of our links to social medias and things like that. And we will see you next week for the grand finale of Star Wars month. Thank you so much. It has been so therapeutic for talking about these Star Wars things and what they mean to me. Stay tuned for an article. Hopefully it's out by now. We'll see how lazy I am. I don't know. And cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
This has been a Hops News production. You can find Hops News on all your favorite podcasts and social media platforms at Hops News. Cheers.